The Dating Key. Written by Sylburn Arthurs. Narrated by Nia Arthurs. Introduction. Choosing a mate, eagle style. A female eagle is so brilliant that she chooses her mate based on purpose. There are many male eagles that come wanting to be her mate, and thus she makes preparations. First, the female eagle looks over the male eagle to make sure that he fits her physical requirements. Next, she picks up a small twig and flies high in the sky. She then drops this twig and expects the male eagle to catch it. If he is successful, she continues to drop larger and larger twigs from higher heights until, ultimately, she uses one that is about the weight and size of an eaglet. If he fails in any step of this test, he is immediately disqualified. Amazingly, a female eagle chooses her mate based on his ability to protect her offspring, and she does this in advance, before any offspring exists. If an eagle can do this, a human can, at minimum, exude the same level of preparation and thought when choosing a potential mate. The point. If I could say only one thing in this book, for the females, it would be that dating is for collecting data so that you will be able to know if a person is a great marriage partner for you. Do everything you can to observe, investigate, and test your potential spouse during this stage. For the male, I say that you should be preparing yourself for one of the most important responsibilities of your life. So the more equipped you are to care for a family and a spouse, the longer the relationship will last. Chapter 1. The Key of Purpose. The reasons for dating. Dating is like a job interview, and everything else in life, one's education, background, mentalities, and social interactions, is supposed to be preparation for the job. Keeping this in mind, an individual should only apply for dating when they've acquired the proper qualifications and learned the necessary skills to be successful at the job. Everybody has their own idea of what the purpose of dating is. For some, dating is a fun, short-sighted activity that requires little thought. For others, it's an adrenaline rush, something driven by animal instincts. Some people date because they are being pressured. Others date because they think a person is good-looking or because they have a physical urge they need to satisfy. Here is why these are terrible reasons for dating. Number 1, when you don't know the purpose of something, you either abuse it or it abuses you. If you don't have a vision, you will easily be steered by someone who does. It is important to know the purpose of dating to avoid getting hurt and to measure if you're heading in the direction that you want to go in life. Number 2, dating with animal instincts can lead to undesired results. Animal instincts are rarely driven by faithfulness. Therefore, if anyone is dating with this mentality, they risk having the same effect as animals in the wild, where you just jump from one partner to the next. Number 3, dating someone only for their looks is temporary and shallow. Appearance often causes attraction, but after that there has to be solidness and substance. As you get deeper into long-term relationships, looks will change. What is the purpose of dating? Dating is especially important for the female. During this time, all females should become trained investigators. Rather than being caught off guard, they can have foresight. Rather than being lab rats, they need to be the lab technicians. For a female, dating is essential because it allows you to sift out someone's intentions before making a long-term decision. It is an important point of time where a woman wields the most power. Dating, at its finest, is the woman's ability to determine if the potential mate is equipped for marriage before she says I do. Love is blind. Love is blind is a very common phrase. The manual says it in a different way. According to the manufacturer, love holds no wrong, it's long-lasting, and it covers a multitude of sin. 1 Peter 4:8. When someone is in love, they make excuses for toxic behavior. They float right past parades of red flags and beating drums and trumpets blasting, "Get out!" They can't see. They're in love. They're blind. Therefore, during the dating stage, it is not the time for love. Let me repeat that. For the female, the dating stage is not the time for love. Leave the love part to the male. And if he is not in love with you, then we will discuss that in a later part of the book. I can list countless relationships where women fell in love only to find out that the person was immature, cheating, or worse, violent. If you, as the female, jump in with love, you are jumping in blind. When your eyes finally open, it might be too late. The two main types of love. Long-lasting and successful marriages require two main types of love, agape and eros. Agape love represents unconditional love, and eros is sexual love. Although most people who are dating have their minds set on eros, it is not enough, nor is it even required in dating, and can end up breeding negative results. If eros could suffice, then everyone's relationships would be long-lasting and successful, as most people are extremely passionate when expressing this form of affection. Agape love should be a part of all dating equations, but adding eros to the mix during the dating stage creates a toxic level that can become dangerous. Be mindful of the type of love entertained during this time. Your training awaits. Becoming an investigator will increase your chances of choosing the right person. For the female to become an investigator, she must seize the opportunity to observe and test the male, and must develop the skill to use measuring instruments so she can assess the condition of his heart. The person you are testing already has a head start because of your interest in him and because you are allowing him to partake of your time. This is why a female should not date until she has developed her training and been given the tools on how to diagnose the ability of a male in the relationship. When someone unprepared and untrained enters the dating stage, they miss the signs they should be looking for or ignore them altogether. They flounder because they don't have the right tools for assessment. A female who has not been trained in what dating should be will try to treat the relationship as if it is a marriage. When she sees a red flag, she might feel pressured to stay thinking, "I have to take this," or "with time, he will get better." These thoughts are more acceptable barely during a marriage, but should never be entertained during dating. By the end of this book, females should know what to do, what to demand, and what to observe in a prospective date, especially in the early stage. They will understand why it is important to watch everything like a hawk and why the dating stage is the only time a woman holds any responsibility for a relationship gone wrong. For the males, by the end of this book, they should know what capabilities and disciplines they should have before they begin dating and what is required of them during the dating stage. Chapter 2. The Key of Purpose. Who should date? There are two main qualifications for those who should date if the end goal is commitment and a successful, long-lasting relationship. These qualifications are those who are of the right age, those who are mature. Certain qualities are expected during dating. For example, a male should understand that he will become the breadwinner, so he should be the one who wants to cover the dates financially. He should make sure that the female's transportation is taken care of and that she arrives back home safely. This shows that he is responsible. But if he is unable to contribute financially or has to ask permission from an outside authority in order to go on a date, something is wrong. The age qualification comes into play specifically for children, teenagers, and young adults. Those in the developing stage of life would be better off spending their time on their schoolwork, shaping their character, and discovering their vision, which is all a part of preparing for the job of marriage. The second essential qualification for dating is maturity. An immature individual, specifically an immature male, cannot meet the standards necessary for a solid relationship. Symptoms of maturity are being respectable, being responsible, being a person of principles. It is also important for the male to have a job. A man with gainful employment possesses a tool that is required when caring for a family. So ladies, if you realize the man is immature or doesn't want to work, run. Dating requires serious thought. It is no joke when, inside a marriage, a female is frustrated, is getting battered, or is cheated on. Being cautious does not begin when you're married. The red flags that pop up during dating are not to be ignored, but rather they are opportunities for you to see issues that would turn up during marriage. Therefore, the best candidates for dating should be people who are mature and ready in almost every way to get married. Who should you date? Looking for a significant other with the right checklist will result in greater success. Before choosing whom to date, the female needs to acquire two important skills: training in how to properly assess if a male is ready for dating, understanding what the purpose of dating is. Dating is the season for the female's methodical and intensive observation. It's the environment to discover whether or not a man is ready for commitment. Therefore, dating should not be a once you date, that's it situation. There should be no pressure to marry someone unsuitable simply because you are dating them. That is why, after the dating stage, there is a higher level of commitment, the engagement. The only level of commitment that is necessary in dating is exclusivity. I do not recommend multiple dating, as it shows an indecisiveness that reeks of immaturity. You should date the person that you are interested in, and that person should display the minimum required level of readiness for marriage. The mentality search. Mentality and maturity overlap because the way a person thinks shapes the way they see and move through the world. Mentality also represents a large part of how a person will interact with a partner. Mentalities are shaped by our experiences, and so everyone has different beliefs based on their culture, background, worldview, and religion. Below are just a few examples of unhealthy mentalities. Some believe that what a man does isn't any of a woman's business. Some believe that the man is the king of the house, allowed to do what he wants, how and when he wants. Some find it perfectly acceptable for a man to shout at a woman. Some believe if a partner loves you, they will beat you. Some believe it is okay for a man to have multiple women on the side as long as he is respectful about it. Some believe in an open marriage. Some believe that their mother or even their children are more important than their wife. These belief systems are important topics to discuss in order to figure out if someone's worldview matches with yours. Expectations in the early stages of dating. Dating is especially for the female, and this makes things a little biased towards them. Females are able to have higher expectations, and they should be looking to ensure that all those expectations are met and all the boxes are ticked before moving forward. As a female, you should expect the male to be 60% ready for marriage when dating him. If his readiness for marriage is less than 60%, then that lengthens the time required before marriage even becomes a discussion. A man who is 5% ready for marriage is like a child who doesn't have a job, who can't see over the dashboard of a car, and who is still wetting his pants. What is he doing dating? Females should look for a suitable percentage. 60% and up means he is ready for dating. What a woman should be working on before and during dating. On a personal level, a female should understand that she is very valuable and must demand the best, expecting the male to be on top of his game. It is okay for a male who is at 60% to develop the remaining 40% during the dating stage, but he should be taught by a male mentor. The female should never have to teach a man how to treat her or how to meet her expectations. What a man should be working on before and during dating. A man should always be perfecting his ability to understand and function with a wife. He should expect to carry the weight in the relationship and be ready to seek out her heart. A male should also expect to begin getting practical experience with the way a lady thinks and the challenges she goes through. He should expect to further develop the things he's learned in his dating preparation. Expectations in the later stages of dating. The burden during dating is on the man to operate as if he's already in a marriage. The burden is on the woman to check her change. Example 1. A couple who was courting for a while began to get more serious about each other. After a certain time had passed and it was appropriate, the male began to give the female $100 a month towards her rent. The male was not sleeping with the woman, nor was he living with her. However, he offered to do this because he was showing her that he was capable of carrying the relationship and he cared enough to take on her business as his own. This is not something that would happen right at the beginning of the dating stage. And if the male offers money or other support, it is more than okay for the lady to say no. But he should be willing and able to offer it. What is important is not the money offered, but the heart behind it. A female should expect this type of heart during the dating stage, because it is dangerous to expect a male to suddenly develop this mentality during marriage. Nobody is perfect, and a female should never expect a man to be flawless. But at the very least, a man should be grown, responsible, and trained in the ways of being a husband. At the beginning stages of dating, the couple is just getting to know each other. But after a period of time has passed, and not years either, the female should feel like the male is willing to do almost anything for her. She should feel like they're already married, except that he's not getting any physical benefits from it. That selfless behavior is agape love, and agape is the highest love that is required in a happy relationship and a successful marriage. Beware of the honeymoon dating stage. Most couples will come together and want to be entangled with each other. A man will want to jump on top of the lady and be physically intimate with her. And the lady, because she loves him, will want that too. 99% of couples get caught up in the honeymoon phase and are all over each other. And 99% of those couples end up separated or struggling because they started with a physical connection and didn't build any other foundation in its place. This physical interaction is one of the worst ways to build a relationship. Chapter 3: The Key of Marriage Readiness. The male's 60%. When looking at dating, the male should be 60% ready for marriage. But you might be wondering, what embodies that percentage? As mentioned in the previous chapter, maturity and gainful employment make up a large part of that percentage. But there are many other slices of that marriage preparedness pie. The first slice is womanese. Womanese is the skill of learning the language that women speak. I discussed this topic at length in The Marriage Key, the first book in this series. Womanese is essential when understanding what a woman is saying from her heart. By the time a man is ready to date, he should at least be practicing womanese, even if he can't speak it fluently. The second piece of the 60% is time. A male should be able to plan his time and set blocks of it aside for dating. This often happens naturally, but if it doesn't, that's a red flag. If, during the dating stage, when the male should be fully in pursuit mode, he cannot make the time to date, the female should be wary. Dating is not something that can be placed on the back burner to simmer and only paid attention to when it is convenient. It is a path that takes time. Thirdly, the male should not be forceful and pushy with the female. He should be able to practice self-control so that if he is on a date and they begin to get physical, he doesn't end up trying to rape or force himself on the female. A man who is prepared for marriage must understand the basic principle of no is no. Fourthly, a male who is 60% ready for marriage should practice being accountable. For example, he can let the female know what he's doing, if he's leaving somewhere, if he's late, or if he can't make it to a date. Fifthly, he should practice keeping other females at bay. This is an issue of respect. It is not a debate on whether males and females can be friends. Out of respectfulness to his girlfriend, fiancé, or date, a man who is 60% ready for marriage should not have another woman all over him, nor should he be all up in another woman's space. As the female, if you see that kind of behavior, run. You don't need to have any discussion. Just get as far as you can. A man who lacks boundaries with other females is like the cheese that needs to be put back into the oven. He needs more baking. Another level of respect involves not having a lady out at all times of the night if she lives with her parents. Respecting the curfew of the mother and father shows maturity and boundaries. Even if the person lives in their own space, the male can still be respectful of the time he has her out. Sixthly, he should do his best to protect her in every situation. This includes emotionally, physically, and sexually. He should treat a woman with honor in little gestures, like opening the door for her and taking out her chair. These traditional dating etiquettes say to the woman that a man can take care of her. It tells her what kind of person he is. It shows that he respects her. By doing these small acts of service for her, it is a small but important sign that displays how much she means to him. Lastly, a man who is 60% ready for marriage will practice selflessness. The truth is that when single, you can do anything you want, but as a partner is introduced into the picture, you have to start compromising. Some things that a man wants to do, he might not be able to. He should be ready to not just think about himself, but to think about her. This might emerge in the small things, like taking out her chair and picking up the tab, and the big things, like planning events for her birthday party. It all shows that he is not just thinking about himself and that he is prepared for dating and marriage. The risk of dating. Some men might complain that this method is high risk and low reward. They fear exerting all this effort and being rejected. This is the risk of relationships. Dating is not a guaranteed success, but a slow, deliberate process. And males are not the only ones at risk of wasting their time. Women, too, might discover that when they knock the apple off the tree, it drops, bursts open, and reveals that it's rotten inside. There is no guarantee in life, and no one can predict what will happen. But if a female gives you an opportunity, what you do with that opportunity would immediately determine the success and direction of the relationship. Females are instinctively looking for a type of person as a mate. They might be looking for someone who reminds them of their father, especially if they had a good, caring parent. If you fulfill those requirements and surpass them, you are in the perfect position to win her heart. When a woman gives you attention and allows you to take up her time, it is your chance to prove to her that you are worthy of it. If you successfully assure her that you are what she is looking for, then she hands you the key and you have an opportunity to unlock her heart. Being sensitive. Example 2. A young man was once desperately in love with a girl from his school. He pursued her, bought her food, clothes, and jewelry, and was available to her at the drop of a hat. One night, the girl opened up to him about the fact that she was being abused. The confession flew through the boy's left ear and went out the right. He was far too caught up wanting her to be his girlfriend to understand how deeply that situation impacted her. When a woman opens her heart and a man makes light of her vulnerability, he is telling her that this will happen in marriage. His immaturity is screaming that she is not important to him, that he just wants a girlfriend, company, or a body he can demand at will. The boy in the example was not being sensitive, and therefore he can't get upset when the girl kicks him to the curb and gives someone else a chance. Caught up in his own desires, the boy did not provide what she needed. Maybe this girl was looking for someone who would confront the abuser. Maybe she needed someone to hold her hand and give her the courage to go to the authorities. Being sensitive requires maturity and demands that a man think about someone other than himself. If he is selfish, he does not belong in a relationship. Indeed, no relationship works where one person is obsessed with themselves. What length of time should dating take? Dating should take as long as is necessary. If you hurry it, then you are taking a risk. If this is a calculated risk, you might win the gamble, but many couples roll the dice too early and leave this stage with nothing but regret. Again, dating should take as long as is necessary. To be more quantifiable, it should last as long as it takes for the male to show the necessary signs required for marriage. These signs include the things we've discussed so far and what we will discuss later. Do not exchange the vows before the required qualifications are met, because after you say I do, it's much harder to say I don't. To the females, date until you are satisfied that this male is ready for marriage. Do not even consider matrimony or stumble into it blindly until you've seen all the values and standards that you want in a man fulfilled. It is the woman who needs to make sure she finds the correct man, because at the end of the day, she stands to suffer the most. To the males, spend time deliberately developing the training needed to become good husbands. The manual says, once you find a wife, you find a good thing. Proverbs 18:22. So you, the man, would be the person that needs development. This training should have begun from a young age and continued until you were ready to begin dating. But many times, the training is disrupted or non-existent because there is not a father at home. In this case, try to assess the principles and techniques required from husbands in relationships on your own. And do not wait until you are inside of a relationship to learn these lessons. Chapter 4. The Key of Restraint. Why abstinence is important. The manufacturer wants the best for his creation, so the rules he put in place are for their own good. In this regard, we're going to look at the spiritual implications and the practical benefits of abstinence. The first benefit of abstinence is that it allows you to keep yourself for your husband or wife. An individual who is dating someone is not even sure yet that this will be the person he or she spends the rest of their life with. By offering their body, they are giving this possibly temporary partner something that is priceless. As much as possible, you want to share this experience only with your wife or husband. Refusing to give yourself to someone who is just test driving you, someone who is just trying to see if they're interested, is wise. Keep yourself until you both have reached that point where you have made a long-term commitment. The next benefit of abstinence is safety. A person might have a transmitted disease or STDs. Even if they don't show the signs, they might be a carrier. Sleeping with just anyone is like playing Russian roulette with your life. And for what? Because he looks good? Because it feels good? Not everything that feels good is good. The third benefit is to avoid unwanted pregnancy. This one is especially for the ladies who might end up pregnant and have to drop out of school or face judgment from their families. For the most part, nothing will happen to the male if he gets a girl pregnant. On the other hand, the female will be left behind to care for a baby alone, growing him up without a father simply because she didn't know if the man she slept with was interested in a long-term relationship or the long-term responsibility of caring for a child. The fourth benefit of abstinence is peace of mind. Very few women carry out an investigation before sleeping with someone, and thus might find themselves entangled with a two-timing or married man. Lastly, abstinence reinforces your value to the person you are dating. Ladies, a man will treat you on the level that you put yourself. If a woman has no standards in this area, she is telling a man that her value is low. Everyone has the right to do what they want. So if one night stands are your cup of tea, then you are able to do that. However, if you're thinking of long-term commitment, abstinence is the best protector of your future, safety, and peace of mind, and it shows how highly you value yourself. Milking the cow before you buy. It's a common sense principle to check something before purchasing it. In some cases, it is even required by law. But in the case of testing a partner for sexual compatibility, this rule does not apply. Scenario 1. The milking the cow argument is like someone who wants to give away a kidney with the condition that the receiver enters a committed relationship with them. However, the receiver demands to have the surgery before confirming that they'll commit to the donor. This book wholeheartedly endorses the check your change philosophy, which means checking out someone thoroughly before you make a long-term commitment. But sex is the exception. Sex is not a requirement in dating, and it is not a glue to hold a dying, unhealthy relationship together. If that were the case, male and female prostitutes would have long-lasting relationships with every client. However, every other test should be done meticulously. Can you expect a man to wait? Firstly, waiting until marriage is not easy. But when a man is able to wait, it says that this person is capable of self-restraint. It also says, if you go abroad to study, he can wait. If you are home while he goes on a business trip, he can wait. If you aren't with him every step of the way to watch him, he can wait. Abstinence during dating is a big indicator that he won't be out there jumping on another woman because he can't keep himself in check. If you marry a man knowing he can't wait, then you can't complain when he doesn't. Because you chose him, you will have to live with his habits. Secondly, a man being able to wait says that he has a deep inner character. Anybody can wild out and sleep with anything in a skirt. It is very easy to be promiscuous. But waiting and not sleeping with anyone until marriage is a show of strength. To the men reading this book, you are not a wuss because you have the capacity to wait. You are not a wuss because you are a virgin. In fact, both men and women should be proud to be virgins. This means you can guarantee to your wife or husband that you don't have an STD, unless it's contracted through other means. Yes, it is difficult to wait, especially if a person has already experienced intimacy with previous partners, but it is not impossible. If you, as the female, see that a man can't and won't change, run. Running away is the opportunity you have in the dating stage. Don't make excuses for a person who does not want to change with the hopes that you'll be able to turn them into the man you want them to be. Physical intimacy feels good when dating. The chemistry is sweet, and the man is trying his best to court the woman. But after she gets into the marriage and the man continues his bad habits, it is there that bitterness begins. A woman trapped in marriage with a man who lacks self-control will suffer embarrassment, pain, and torment. But such a future isn't necessary. There are 7 billion people on the face of the earth, of which at least a third of those are men. With so many other fish in the sea, you don't have to put yourself through the torture of choosing a man who will step out with other women because he lacks self-restraint. Dating is not something you need to rush. If you hurry into it, you might be sorry afterwards. Take your time and maintain your standards. If you search hard enough, you will find a man who has the discipline to wait until marriage. When a man really wants you, he will put in the effort to exercise self-control. It takes 28 days to form a habit, and if someone has a problem with self-control, they should practice to restrain themselves. After a period of time, it will become second nature. In conclusion, abstinence is a quality sign that a man is within that 60% readiness range. Once he can maintain abstinence and commitment and mixes it with love, there is no way you can go wrong. Chapter 5. The Key of Observing. The expectations on the female. Every behavior that a person exemplifies is a sign, but some signs only appear to those who are looking. The manual says that wisdom stands up at the street corner and cries out. Whoever has ears can listen to it. Proverbs 1:20. The truth is, you, as the female, have all the responsibility in the dating stage, just as the male has all the responsibility in marriage. If a marriage ends up falling apart or breaking down, it's not always the male's fault, but it is always his responsibility. The same goes for females. Ladies, you have all the responsibility during dating. It doesn't mean it's your fault, but the burden is on you to check your change before signing any dating or marriage contracts. The female litmus test. One of the things you're observing is the person's behavior amongst females. How does he treat his mom? How does he treat his female pastor? How does he treat his sisters, teachers, and female bosses? You can also observe how he treats other women, but note that this is not always a good way of measuring. He might want to impress these other females, and thus not show his true colors when around them. Check specifically the way he acts around the females he has grown comfortable with, the females who may be a nuisance to him at times, and the females who become obstacles in his endeavors. In this female litmus test, the mother is one of the most powerful observation tools. Does he treat his mom badly? Observe him keenly and answer that question. The result will reveal your future because when it comes to a sister or a mother, a male is with them for years, and so he is at a point of maximum transparency. If he treats his mother, who loves him and would die for him, badly, how will he treat you? This observation is like stripping down a car to the minimum so you can see if parts are rusted out, decayed, or broken down completely. Take your time. Watch silently. Remember, your job in the dating stage is to function as a private investigator. The test of discipline. The female litmus test is the most comprehensive search, but there are many details you can observe outside of that, such as, is this person disciplined? Does he have values? What does he feel about certain things in life? What do I mean by discipline? Discipline can be broken down into finer observations. Imagine that you're a PI with a pair of binoculars. With this hyper-focused lens, check, is the person diligent in all things? Or is he generally lazy? Does he push himself to complete simple routines even though they are a nuisance? If a male is lazy and expects that everything has to be done for him, these expectations will then be placed on you. Being able to answer these questions will help you to know if a man is disciplined. The test of values. Ladies, you want to become a chief observer in the dating stage. And a key factor to study is a man's values. What does that person feel about other human beings? Does he see other human beings like dogs because they have a different color or background? If he can treat another human being that way, who wouldn't he treat that way? Does that person ridicule people who have handicaps or impediments? Does he insult people who are different than him? This is also a sign of what he will do to you. Note that nobody is perfect, but a man who has values and high moral standards will strive towards reaching those standards. A man who has no standards can easily jump over his morals and ignore them. Speaking of morals, is that person honest? If the person is dishonest, that's a dangerous value because trouble might follow him and, by default, you. If he disrespects people because of a handicap or a flaw, observe. If he has an attitude of spite, observe. If he continuously belittles or undervalues people, observe. If he can do it to that person, don't think you're so special that he won't eventually unleash that side of himself on you. These values tell you his mentality is a selfish one. When the rubber hits the road and it's either you or him, who will come first? Comparison is good. When it comes to values, you should know yours and be able to compare them with his. Point out the differences, work out what you can, and identify the deal breakers. One practical comparison a female should make in this stage is whether this person's financial habits align with yours. He might be somebody who is good with finances, or he might be in deep debt. If a person borrows from everybody and owes everyone in his family, this is not only wrong, but it shows a desperate lack of management. A female who attaches herself to such a man is signing herself up for a headache. Other practical observations include: is the person always angry? Does he have a violent temper? Is he cold? Does he always blame someone else for his mistakes? Is he always making excuses? Everyday scenarios will reveal hints of his mentality and values to you. For example, if there's a traffic incident, does he park the car in the middle of the street and want to come out and fight with people? Check the box under temper? If he is in a line, does he push himself in front of people? Check the box under discourteous. If he sees an elderly woman standing in a bus, does he get up and offer his seat? Does he help an elderly man to cross the street? Do you see him reaching out to the poor? If not, check the box under unkind. These actions and others tell you what type of heart he has, and the heart is full of values, good and bad. Be calculative when comparing your values to his, and decide if this is someone you can live with. Show me your friends. Another great observation is a man's social circle. What type of friends does he keep? I know of many married women who resent their husband's friends, but this is a little too late. The opportunity to observe his friend circle is now, in the dating stage, not after marriage when he leaves to hang out with them. The saying goes, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. If you are uncomfortable with his friends and he sees nothing wrong with them, then he possibly thinks like them. That is also something to look for. Don't make a peep. The manual says that we should be as wise as serpents. Snakes don't go around stomping through the grass, warning their prey that they're coming. Like a snake, you should observe silently. If a man knows he's being observed, he'll put on a show. This song and dance routine is what I call a screensaver. You don't want to make your observations obvious, but you are checking to make sure what you see is what you want. It is very difficult to change something that is ingrown and formed from decades of habit. See a value, behavior, or habit you don't like? Don't try to fix it. A good method is to point it out and see how he responds and whether he tries to work on it. If, after speaking to him, he ignores you, ridicules you, or gets upset, run. For example, if you're dealing with a man who's touchy-touchy, or who flirts with every woman he sees, you observe that. If you don't like it, you don't have to hang around that person, especially if it's somebody who isn't making an effort to change. Silently observe how the person behaves, and then make your decision based on knowledge and not on ignorance. All this should be done undercover, like a PI. Deal or no deal. Some habits are easier to change than others, and those particular behaviors aren't deal breakers. However, some habits are deal breakers and require more deliberate action. For example, if a man is violent, but you stay hoping your love can change him, eventually he may drop his screensaver and unleash his anger on you. Unfortunately, many women are aware of their partner's bad habits and behaviors during the dating stage, but do not identify them as deal breakers. They believe that marriage is a miracle maker, that a wedding day is a miracle potion. But being married does not make a man brand new. You, as the female, should know what your deal breakers are. But generally, annoyances like whether that person is always late or whether they clean up after themselves are lower on the priorities list and can be groomed before marriage or even after. On the other hand, anger, violence, and certain discipline problems such as laziness or chronic unemployment are issues that are dangerous and difficult to change. You, as the female, have so many options to look at. You can choose what is a priority for you and what is a deal breaker for you based on your own standards and values. But note that every choice comes with consequences. For example, some women love notorious men. They are attracted to their swag, their speech, and their wealth. But when somebody is notorious, it brings its own complications. If you live by the sword, you will die by the sword. And there might be a time when somebody comes after you or your family to get to him. No matter how varied your personal standards are, however, one deal breaker that should be high on every woman's list is infidelity. Lying and cheating are habits you want to avoid. This is a disrespect to you as the female. Ideally, the male should come equipped with high standards and values in order to pass the observation stage. Dating is the time to check, to inspect, and to test this. If something needs to be strong, you test the strength. If something needs to be springy, you check the elasticity of it. Do your due diligence. Do your inspection. This observation stage is very important because you are preparing to choose a spouse. You want to make sure this person is capable of loving you for years to come. Chapter 6. The Key of the Chase. The Seeker and the Jewel. A woman should be the most precious jewel in a relationship. She should not be the aggressor in the relationship, chasing the male, going over and beyond, trying hard to make it work. She should not be overwhelmed and consumed with doing all the work in the relationship. It is okay for her to be madly in love, but she should not act it out as yet. There are different responsibilities placed on the two entities in a relationship, and the chasing is designed to fit squarely on the shoulders of the male. He should know what he wants, see what he wants, and go after what he wants. The male is the person who should be in hot pursuit. He is the person that should be aggressive, be interested, be hungry, be desperate, be willing to make sacrifices. The male should see the female as precious gold with high value and worth, and, based on this, he should go after her. The last thing you want is to begin a relationship where you, as the female, chase after the male and he operates as a king. During the dating stage, you are the king and he should be running after you. Why should the female not be the aggressor? The trouble with a female aggressor is the male's response. If the male gets into an attitude where he is king and he can relax while the female carries the weight of a relationship, he becomes complacent. A male who is being chased is calm and content, while the female rushes around trying to serve him. This dynamic is dangerous, especially during dating. You can serve each other, but he should be the aggressor. For example, he should be the one wanting to pay for meals and showing you that he can provide for you. He should protect you. He should be the one making contact, showing that he wants to be around you. If you're starting a relationship and you, as the female, are the one aggressing, you don't have your eyes open and are flying blind. You can't see who the person really is because you are so focused on pressing, chasing, and going after him that it affects your ability to be an investigator. The general behavior of a male in love with a female is that he will aggress her. He will tell her sweet words, and try to sell her all types of promises. He tries to impress her physically, mentally, and financially. That is why, in movies, the man sings outside the lady's window. That's why, when there's an engagement, it's the male who gets on his knees and buys a ring. This effort is a sign of a male being interested and also, indirectly, a sign of the female being king during dating. Is it bad to like someone more than they like you? It is okay for you as the female to like someone more than they like you. But if you chase after a man who is less interested in the relationship than you are going after a connection prematurely. You can feel all the fluttery butterflies you want, but experiencing heightened emotions does not mean you have to act on it. Feel how you feel, but wait for him to come around. If he never comes around, you can initiate first contact. Make the first move, but it has to be the first and the last. If you initiate contact and he doesn't take over the pursuit, that puts you in the unfortunate position of aggressor. And why would you want to be with somebody who has to be coaxed into seeing the worth in you? The relationship should begin with him aggressing and needing you. If he doesn't need you, doesn't want to be around, and doesn't care unless pushed, then what's the point in that? You'll find that if you start a relationship by aggressing, you will have to continue to do so for a long time. But I'm the exception. There are exceptions to every rule, so you may go ahead and try to be that special case. But the principle remains. If you are aggressing the man, and you take up that role in the beginning, later on, you might become frustrated. A woman should not have to run behind a man and compete with his many other priorities. If she functions as the aggressor, she becomes like a prison guard, keeping the male locked up behind bars. That is not the way it works, and it only leads to pain and heartbreak. Some women will go so far as to give their bodies to a man, hoping that having his baby will force him to stay. This woman will enter marriage with the mentality of being the hunter. Despite the fact that the male is showing her that he doesn't want her, she continues the chase. In this twisted pursuit, she is telling him her worth and value. Example 3. A woman spends months chasing a man and finally gets him to marry her. After marriage, the man continues being disinterested and the woman becomes bitter. She runs behind him, wanting to know where he is going and snooping through his phone at night. She waits for him to come home in the evenings, wishing he would spend time with her and wanting him to be romantic with her. When she finds evidence of his cheating, she compares herself with the mistress and wants to fight for her man. This is a sad example of a woman chasing a man who is technically for her, but his heart is definitely not with her. The relationship will continue to deteriorate until it goes sour and ends in her heartbreak, whether she stays with him or gives up on the chase entirely. Remember, ladies, he is the one who should be aggressing you. No king goes chasing down his subjects to let them worship him. If you find yourself in a predicament of chasing a man for love, run the other way. If you got him, but you have to be running after him, then you don't really have him. You are trying to force ripe a fruit that needs to stay on the tree for much longer. Chasing is different when it is the man trying to get the girl to turn around and like him. If he is leading the hunt, it is possible for a lifelong relationship to bloom. But when the girl tries to take over and be the hunter, minus a few exceptions, that's a recipe for disaster. Subtle ways to let him know you're interested. A female should come as she is and be herself. But if she is interested in a relationship, one method of seeking attention is by taking extra care of her appearance. Being yourself does not mean going around in a sloppy manner. For example, some females take no care of themselves. They smell, they don't do their hair, and they have no interest in their appearance. Nothing is wrong with this, but there is a benefit in culturing your appearance. A store selling apples will clean them up and put them in plastic so they are presentable, because there's an appeal to the eyes. This appeal is important in a female's version of the chase. If, when a male looks at her, she looks like his little brother, then he will have no interest. So one of the things a female can do is to take care of herself in a more aggressive way. She can put on some new clothes. It doesn't have to be dangerously short or tight, but she can wear something a little more eye-catching, fix her hair, or put on makeup. That is how she can chase in an indirect way. She can also make the first contact. It is not wrong to make the first move, but if you have to be pushing yourself for the male to see you, you are setting yourself up for possible failure. Chapter 7. The Key of Safety. The protection procedure. Protection is often used to prevent pregnancy, but when it comes to safety in a relationship, the best scenario for using protection is to use it inside of a marriage. In any other context, there is no guarantee that the person you are sleeping with is the one that you'll live with for the rest of your life. So why would you want to give your body to him? Still, an unmarried female may insist on this method of prevention, as she may resent the thought of having her life shift due to giving birth to a child she did not plan for. This child also has a high risk of being fatherless because of the temporary conditions of the relationship, as the child's father may have just wanted to have a fun time. Unfortunately, sleeping with someone and getting pregnant is not a confirmation that a man is ready for a relationship long term, and it rarely results in a committed and happy marriage. For this reason, the best protection is not being intimate before marriage. This gives your mind and heart protection. It also gives you, as the female, the opportunity to know if the male you are investigating has the ability to show self-restraint. Treat everyone with suspicion. Females, especially in the early stages of dating, should move carefully. Not every man has a woman's best interest at heart, and this is a dangerous lesson to learn the hard way. Because the manufacturer designed the male to protect, he gave him more muscles and more strength than the female. If a man's mind is warped, he can use his strength to harm instead of to protect. The harm may not only be violent physically, but also sexually. It is imperative that a female take precautions. For example, if you are dating someone and it's your first or second time meeting them, don't go to their house alone if you don't intend on getting physical. You also don't need to be alone in a car in a secluded area with him, because this opens the door for things you may not be ready for. To that end, Be careful when getting physical with someone early in the dating stage, as it may be difficult to start and then stop them in the middle. If you drop a ball down the side of a wall, it will want to continue rolling. It's best not to drop the ball in the first place. It is not okay for a male to force himself on you, but this does not mean it doesn't happen. Avoiding situations where you can get hurt is key as a female. If you go out on a date with someone, it is good to let your parents, a loved one, or a friend know where you are going so they can check to make sure that you get back safely. This precaution is especially important in the early stages of dating. Here are some practical tips. Keep your phone location on so that you can be located in the case of an emergency. If you're on a date and you need to go to the bathroom, it's best you go before ordering a drink because while you're away, you may be drugged and taken for a ride. It is important to note that human trafficking also happens during dates. The predator gains a woman's trust and then kidnaps her with the use of drugs and force. This situation happens all too often, so you must be aware. When it comes to dating and safety, you want to treat the person as a possible threat. Just because you are getting to know them as a potential life partner doesn't mean that you close your eyes and become blind. Blindness is a dangerous enemy in relationships. The accountability partner. The manual says, "There's wisdom in the multitude of counsels." Proverbs 15:22. When you have someone that you hold your relationship accountable to, it says that you have standards and shows that you are not a loose cannon with little value for yourself. You will know if you are capable of taking care of yourself and may decide that you don't need to be accountable to anyone because your values are strong and you know what you want and where your boundaries are. For others, though, having accountability with someone is a good thing. This accountability partner is someone you respect and someone who is not afraid to speak into your life. He or she can guide you so the relationship grows right, forms properly, and has breathing room. Example 4. A young man wants to take his girlfriend out of the country for a trip, and he decides to stay at the same hotel with a bunch of friends. When he brings this idea up to his accountability partner, he is cautioned against it. Although the young man will be on the trip with other people, the accountability partner recognizes the pitfalls of his plan. From his experience, he knows it will lead somewhere the young man doesn't want. Accountability requires giving some level of authority to someone else in order to help maintain the standards that you have for your relationship. The young man in the example can easily tell the accountability partner to back off and do what he wants. However, if you have an accountability partner, you must be willing to submit yourself. If you don't, you run the risk of turning that person away and causing them to withhold their advice. Having an accountability partner means you are humble and teachable, and you are willing to submit yourself to be accountable. What to look for in an accountability partner, shortened to AP. An accountability partner needs to be someone who has access to you and must be someone whom you respect. It would be good to look for someone with experience, which usually means finding someone who's older and has been around the block a couple times. Choosing an AP does not have to be complicated. Humans are observant by nature, so a problem one person can't solve because he's inside the chaos can, many times, be solved by anyone standing outside of his situation. This is because we, as human beings, are designed to see things from outside in a different way than when we are personally going through it. Anyone standing on the peripherals, even if they don't have a skill in that area, can bring a new and objective perspective. In this way, we are dependent on each other. Therefore, choosing an accountability partner doesn't mean the person has to be a doctor or a genius. It just means that there's someone outside who cares for you and can see down the road to help you to avoid disaster. If the person is trained in the area of relationships, that's a plus. But even if they're not, just having the minimum requirements of intelligence, common sense, and high standards can get the job done right. Accountability simply gives you an extra set of eyes, which may turn out to be a relationship saver. Chapter 8. The Key of Standards. The question of kissing. A lot of what we believe comes from our cultural, spiritual, and family ethics, as well as media and pop culture. These form our personal standards. In this chapter, we'll address a couple of those standards and pinpoint the spirit of these boundaries to help you form your own. Standards regarding physical touch. This varies from person to person. Some people believe that it's okay to kiss while dating, and others want to have their first kiss after saying "I do." Both camps have supporters, but here's why I'm on Team Save Your Lips, at least until later on in the relationship. The problem with kissing and other physical connections in dating is the issue of purpose. Kissing on its own is innocent, but if a couple is chasing that good feeling inherent in physical touch, that is a problem. Good feelings are the enemies of proper investigation. Chasing the butterflies in the stomach is like awakening a sleeping giant. Once that giant is awake, it is difficult to put him back to sleep. He will want to eat and eat, demanding more. To clarify, when I say kissing, I'm not referring to a little peck on the cheek or a peck on the lips. However, I still believe a lot of touching is unnecessary during dating because it distracts you from what should be the priority. Remember, the female should be investigating the male during the dating stage. This is difficult to do if her focus is on physical intimacy when he comes around. This standard may be difficult to maintain as it is very easy to default to kissing and petting in a relationship charged on passion. But here's a startling truth. Almost every divorced couple were all over each other when they were dating. Example 5. A friend of mine used to be extremely affectionate with his girlfriend. He and this woman would lie on the beach together, hugging, kissing, and groping each other. They were thirsty for one another, and yet that behavior did not save the marriage, and they later got divorced. A good standard is to avoid kissing until later on during the dating stage. This affection should be earned, not given away for free. In fact, it is best reserved for when you have reached or are nearing the point of engagement. Again, if a kissing-heavy, physical relationship is what you want and that makes you feel good, nobody can stop that. However, be aware of the consequences. Getting physical in the early stages of dating is like a person who goes to a lot looking for a car, but gets in the first car they like to see and starts to drive immediately. Though they are just looking and they don't even know if they want a dump truck or a pickup yet, they jump in and slam the gas pedal. Undecided and uncommitted, they're already heading full speed down the road. I believe in God and my partner doesn't. If you believe in God and you are interested in dating someone who does not, you must ask yourself, do I really believe in God? The manual says, do not be unequally yoked, 2 Corinthians 6:14. As how can two walk together except they agree? Amos 3:3. If you are intentionally choosing to date someone who does not believe in God, you are ignoring a law given by the God you say you serve. However, there are scenarios where someone chooses to serve God while already inside a strong and long-term relationship. As you can't force your non-believing partner to follow you, you have two choices. 1, go on with this person knowing that they will not walk with you, and hopefully, by your lifestyle, they turn to God. 2, or you can come to the point where your decision to follow Christ means your decision to let go of this person. Many people say they follow God, but continue living just to satisfy themselves. There are also a few people who, when they decide to follow God, drop everything and anything that goes against what God wants. This choice is up to you. Beyond the religious experience, the unequally yoked principle can be applied to other areas of life as well. For example, if you believe in saving lives, but the person you're dating believes in taking lives, how can you walk together? Knowing these standards before the relationship begins, or while the relationship is being tested to see if it fits, allows you to make informed decisions. You can then choose to walk into an unequally yoked relationship, but you are doing so with your eyes wide open and should not complain later. I want to do what I want. You can. No one is forcing you to do anything. It's your life. So if you want to walk by emotions, you are free to do so. But be aware that the passionate feelings which burned so brightly in the beginning of dating can, in marriage, quickly turn into fumes because feelings are not a strong foundation to build on. There will be a time when passion will not meet your needs. In fact, sexual passion during dating is dangerous because it blinds you. Setting aside principles and going by your fluttery feelings is like a person jumping off the top of a building because they feel like the pool is filled. You can jump. If it's filled, lucky you. Exclusive dating versus open dating. Dating should be open in the context of commitment. When dating, you have not made a commitment to marry this person and should not be held trapped as if you were married if they begin to show red flags. This particular brand of openness is a healthy precaution and part of the commitment process. A bank requires a long process to borrow money for a house or car. A country requires rigorous paperwork to qualify an immigrant as a citizen. A job requires potential employees to go through interviews and bring in resumes and police records. This effort is expected because a bank, a country, and an employer are looking to start a long-term relationship with you. Similarly, dating should be taken seriously. This is a time to check and evaluate. Can you evaluate more than one person at the same time? Yes, but it wouldn't be considered dating. It would be considered looking out. The minute you decide to focus your attention on one person, the dating principle kicks in. At this point, the male should assign all his resources to the female to show her that he is 60% or more ready for marriage. And the female should be assigning all her resources to investigate this person. Part of a female's investigation is checking whether this man is a monogamous-minded person. This is difficult to judge if the relationship is open. As a female, the more time you can spend with him, the more ground you can cover. Having an open relationship is counterproductive as it accepts and even welcomes one of the most hurtful wounds of a relationship: cheating. In such a scenario, a woman is giving the male no chance to prove that he is trustworthy, because she is giving him the okay to bounce from one woman to the next. A relationship in the full dating stage should be exclusive, and this is, for most people, inherently known. That's why women and men hurt when their significant other goes after someone else. If the person insists on open dating because he or she is unsure if they are interested in you, let them move on. Go about your business, as you do not need the stress. Whenever they feel sure about you, they can try to throw a line. However, when a person is throwing two lines, that means they don't know what kind of fish they want to catch. Practical dating standards. There are standards that should be set during dating, and these may vary based on the individuals involved. However, the more standards you have, the more good habits you can learn, and the more bad habits you can expose. Example 6. A female has a standard that she doesn't kiss during dating. The guy she is with has to have sex. He believes he can break her down, but she sticks to her beliefs. With time, she eventually smokes him out as he doesn't get very far with her. When the man realizes that he won't be satisfied physically during the dating stage, his behavior starts to change. Suddenly, his availability to her shrinks and shrinks until he is always busy. Soon, his shadiness increases, and he starts tiptoeing around and hiding his phone from her view. As this woman has read this book, she'll know to be observant and will notice the red flags. She will know to let him go because she has high standards, and he is probably only 30% ready for marriage. Having high standards is an armor around a woman. If you, as a female, give a man everything, you might end up living together with someone who is not 100% committed. Another practical standard in dating is deciding whether or not you'll be alone together. Some people do double dating or group dating to offset the time spent alone and in private. There are also standards about what time a young lady should be returned to her house after a date. Some people have standards that they won't sleep at their date's house. Others have standards that they won't sleep with the person until marriage. These standards are not hard and fast rules for everyone, as the intensity can be dialed up or dialed down depending on the couple's belief systems. The timer on these particular dating practices are subject to fluctuate as well. However, if you know what to look for and you're practicing to be observant, A couple months of strict standards may suffice before certain tiny allowances are made. Note that careful observation is key. The person can be a good actor and can throw you for a loop, but having high standards is the most effective way of revealing the true intentions behind the screensavers that a man may put up. Breaking your standards. Depending on which standards you break, you might have to make changes. For example, an athlete may suffer different levels of injuries throughout his career, one that can be wrapped up with ice, and others that lay him out for months. Some broken standards may just require putting a bandage on it and moving on. Larger breaks may take the relationship out of commission and require time for healing. What constitutes as minor damage or a major break depends on the couple and their personal standards. Chapter 9. The Key of Symptoms. Relationships and communication. Relationships exist in many spheres outside of romance. A relationship stipulates that there is more than one part involved. For example, if you have more than one part of a machine interacting, that's a relationship. To better understand, here's a scenario. Let's say you connect a blender to the wall. The relationship between the plug and the wall allows electricity to be transferred to the blender. If the blender comes on and runs properly, that is communicating to the operator that the wall-plug relationship is functioning as normal. If the blender does not turn on, this is also communication, but it is communicating to the operator that there is a problem. Therefore, the relationship of something is what makes it function. Communication tips geared for the males. Understanding womanese, the language a woman speaks, equips the male with the proper technology that will allow him to effectively communicate with his girlfriend, fiancé, or spouse and soar above potential problems. Here's a tip. Communication is not a bad thing, and it is not a good thing. Communication is a meter, an identifier. It gives you a picture of what is wrong or what is right. If you know how it works when it is right, you can know when something is wrong. And if it communicates to you that something is wrong, then you can bring it to where it's right. Getting a picture of what the other person is thinking or feeling is never bad. In fact, it is a form of communication. In vehicles, if you're driving on the road and you hear a noise or you see smoke coming from the hood, you can continue driving, but the smoke is communicating what is happening inside the vehicle. As the driver, you can choose to ignore it or deal with it. Communication is so important in vehicles that a whole system has been designed around it, where we connect a scanner to the vehicle to understand what the vehicle is saying. A mechanic won't scan the vehicle hoping to talk negatively about the vehicle or get rid of the vehicle. He uses that scanner to try and find out what is wrong and to communicate with the vehicle so he can go after the problem. This is the issue with relationships. If relationships are looked at and aggressed in the same manner that a seasoned technician would go after a car, we probably wouldn't have any unsolved problems in relationships. How to interpret symptoms. When a female starts to display a negative symptom, it is imperative that you, the male, don't go only after the smoke pouring from her ears. If you dig deeper, you can find out what is causing the smoke. Fix that, and the smoke will stop. This process is the true key in understanding how to deal with issues within a relationship. Note that smoke is not to be ignored. Some fire victims have died not from flames, but from toxic inhalation. Likewise, in a relationship, the smoke brought to you might not be as important as the fire, but the smoke can be deadly too. On the flip side, just like negative communication can tell you that something is wrong, positive communication tells you everything is right. Some examples of positive symptoms are a girlfriend or wife who is content, a girlfriend or wife who is saying you are the best thing that ever happened to her, a girlfriend or wife who is saying, I'm not good enough for you, a girlfriend or wife displaying symptoms from the list above is communicating that the relationship is good and that you, as the male, are functioning the way you were designed to. However, a good report is not the time to get lazy or relaxed. This is where you follow your maintenance schedule. Note that even a car requires constant upkeep. You don't say, oh, the car is working well, so we won't do anything. Every 3 to 5 months, you need to change your oil and take the vehicle in for maintenance. Every so often, certain parts of the vehicle require grease, tightening, and changes. If you don't upkeep the vehicle, even though it has good communication and is working perfectly in the moment, you will eventually end up having problems with it. Likewise, maintenance is essential for the proper function of a relationship. It also allows for proper evaluation and a thorough checkup of how the relationship is going. Don't get defensive after scanning the relationship. Negative communication can cause you as the male to feel defensive. When the female is displaying negative symptoms, it is natural to want to get angry and to leave or to complain. At times, it may feel like you want to throw your hands up and say, this woman complains for everything. This woman is never happy. This woman. But negative symptoms are not a bad thing. Communication in all its forms is the life and breath of relationships. Why? Because communication gives you a chance to repair a problem. Symptoms and problems are displayed many times before major damage happens to let you know that something is wrong. It is your job to check it and get the issues fixed before it shuts down completely. This inability to understand symptoms is one of the things that causes relationships to fail. Men will jump into a relationship without having any lessons or training on how symptoms and communication work. When the woman communicates negatively, they ignore the smoke and start bashing on her without digging deeper to find the cause behind the negative symptoms. Remember, communication is not a bad thing, and it is not a good thing. It is simply a way to know how well you are taking care of your relationship. Why is this the man's job? This principle is hard on the male because it serves to equip you so that you can develop your 60% marriage readiness. And to clarify, you're not developing 60% while dating. To even begin the process of dating a woman, you need to come equipped with at least 60%. The other 40% can be worked on during dating so that you can get as close to 100% before you marry. Otherwise, you are not ready for marriage. Love songs, movies, and media paint a startlingly inaccurate picture. Lines like, "This feels so right that it can't be wrong," is pervasive in many mentalities. We expect that because it smells good and tastes good, that everything will be easy. We run away with the thought that a relationship is good because it feels good. It isn't. It's like assuming we don't need air because we can't see it. You take oxygen away from the body, and eventually you are going to understand how important it is. Likewise with relationships, men go in with the wrong understanding, but we have to know things will get sour. Relationships won't remain sweet all the time. And when it's sour, you need to throw out certain parts, change it, and put in new ones. Similar to a couple who buys a new house, they don't just throw their hands up because they own the house now. They have to clean things, repaint things, and service things as time goes on. Maintenance is a part of life, and learning this principle is a step towards being equipped for marriage. It is good to understand this now so you can practice, not only on your girlfriend, but on your loved ones. Practice identifying symptoms on your female bosses. Practice digging deeper behind the smoke on your mother and sisters. If these females approve of you, it's highly likely that your wife will too, as long as you display that same technician-minded behavior. Chapter 10. The Key of Coins in the Bank. Making deposits in the bank. The idea of putting coins in the bank is a principle that's applicable to relationships. The bank refers to the heart and the mental state of your loved one, and the coins represent the efforts made to show them that you love them. Having coins in the bank leaves a positive crediting history with your partner, encourages peace, and allows you to borrow from the bank when necessary. You do not want to have your bank in a deficit, because this is where relationships get into trouble. What brings coins in the bank? Coins come from actions and words. When you take someone out for a dinner or you surprise them with a gift, these are coins in the bank. When you tell them that you love them, you are depositing coins into the bank. Note that this principle is especially an encouragement for males to do for females, but it works both ways. A few more examples of coins are acts of kindness, acts that say, "I'm thinking about you," telling someone they are priceless, telling someone you care about them. For the male, these specific acts can be defined by 3 important terms: giving identity, protecting, providing. These 3 things are what a father does, and whenever you, as the male, make an effort to cover one or all of them, you are building coins. However, this principle only works under exact conditions. You cannot beat someone black and blue and then take them out for dinner, expecting to make up for it. In this case, you are trying to deposit a small amount of money when you took out so much that it almost destroyed the bank. Love is an action, which means you are constantly giving. If you are not giving, this means you are not loving. So depositing coins in the bank is another way of describing love. The give and take of coins in the bank. Coins are useful and not to be ignored, because sooner or later, you will need to withdraw from the bank. The manual says that love covers a multitude of sins, 1 Peter 4:8. When you put coins in the bank, the balance of love increases. Whenever you slip up, the love you've stored up will cover it. In a credit union, even if you are not putting a lot, but you are constantly putting in something, it is smiled upon because this exposes a heart condition, and the end result is that each coin will add up and you will have savings. It is the same with relationships. Even when you make a mistake, because you are working on other methods of putting coins in the bank, a little extra grace is given before you're dealt with. During dating, everything we do builds coins, but we tend to forget that principle after marriage. Many people abandon dating their spouse when they enter marriage. However, the dating stage shouldn't be closed off, rather, it should be added to. And this is what makes the coins important. Example 7. I used to love taking down and repairing computers. I would get so caught up in it that nobody else existed. My spouse would constantly complain that I didn't spend enough time with her. So, because I'm into repairing things and seeing what works and what doesn't, I decided to try an experiment. I began to practice coming home in the evenings and committing that first part of the time to her. I listened to what happened during her day, ask questions, and make sure all the necessary needs were met. After doing this for a while, I realized that it works. Without knowing it, I was putting coins in the bank daily. When I prioritized her first, I could do almost anything I wanted afterwards because that person was satisfied. This attitude should be practiced during the dating stage so that it flows across into the marriage naturally. My bank is empty. Nobody enters a relationship intending to put 0 coins in the bank. The problem is people do not understand budgeting and want to take out more coins than they put in. People who are not working diligently to stack up coins in the bank eventually find themselves in a deficit. Examples of acts that cause coin deficiency are ignoring the girlfriend/wife, not making the girlfriend/wife a priority. For example, going out every night and playing games or hanging out with friends all night and enjoying yourself without caring for the needs or expectations of the wife/girlfriend. Another heavy loan that is almost unrecoverable is practicing unfaithfulness. The bank lender has to dig deep to allow you to take this size of a loan. And usually, when you are focusing on another woman, you don't have much left to give the female you claim you want to be with. Men are not good multitaskers, and if they have more than one woman, they will choose only one to give their all to. In such a situation, the female who clings to him will turn him off, becoming a pain in his side and an obstacle in his way. With this anger and resentment, he will do the opposite of depositing coins in the bank. A man who is unfaithful is breaking all the rules, and this will most likely end up in debt. Chapter 11. The Key of Handling Cheating. A shaky foundation. Cheating is a red flag that exposes someone's weakness in the area of fidelity and loyalty. A person who can't control themselves during dating may find it even more difficult to show restraint during a long-term relationship or marriage. Such behavior destroys one of the foundational stones of a relationship: trust. Trust, under usual circumstances, takes a while to build, And cheating not only destroys any trust that was there, but also extends the time to rebuild trust. Disclaimer: not cheating before marriage is not a guarantee that it will never happen, but it at least starts off the relationship with better chances. What it means when the female cheats. For the most part, female infidelity is more easily managed, as it is usually a sign that she is feeling empty and unfulfilled. Note to the males: you can't expect a moral result if you are creating an immoral environment. If you expect fidelity, you need to practice it. If cheating is a deal breaker during dating, you can choose to end the relationship. If you are doing your best and she still cheats, you will have to decide whether it is worth pursuing this person. But if the female cheats inside a marriage, it's a different story, and this matter is addressed in my other book, The Marriage Key. What it means when the male cheats. As a female, being careful and observant is extremely important, as you are securing your future and peace of mind. Being careful requires patience and the ability to accept and act on the facts presented. Now is the chance to scrutinize discreetly and investigate how the relationship is going. The goal is to minimize the chances of being cheated on in the future and to develop the ability to smell these bad habits before you say "I do." A man who has cheated requires even more monitoring during the dating stage. Be more aggressive in silently observing his behavior around other women. Is he flirtatious? What does he focus on when he's out? The key here is in observance. It is your choice what you do next. Option 1. Staying. If you choose to stay after being cheated on, a good amount of time should be tacked on to the mandatory testing period. The female should halt all physical intimacy, if they were engaging in such, and immediately begin running deeper tests. The best case scenario would have been to pick up on these behaviors before the cheating was exposed. But if you feel that you have to stay, or you don't want to lose the person, then ease back and become much more observant. Option 2. Leaving. There is no law that says you have to stay. It is okay to move on and call it a day, or give this person time to grow and return to you healed and 60% ready for marriage. People make mistakes, and you can give second chances, but that does not mean you have to be blind. Infatuation might feel good now, and physical gratification might be exciting, but that feeling is only good before marriage/cohabitating. Remember, you are making an investment in your future, so be very cautious about cheating in the dating stage. When you have to live with this behavior after marriage, it takes a toll on the mind and body. Note that this comes into play only if there's an understanding that you're dating exclusively. If he feels there is someone out there that he wants more, and he doesn't want to miss an opportunity with them, set him free. Subtle ways of cheating. Cheating can be subtle, and that is exactly why it is recommended to not get involved sexually, as this blinds you with puppy love and infatuation. At that point, it takes outward aggressive cheating for you to see a red flag. Subtle signs of cheating is looking at what's happening inside the heart, as the heart drives the body. If you're not blinded by sexual intimacy or infatuation, you have more opportunities to catch these signs beforehand. Here are just 3 examples of cheating red flags. He's flirting with everyone. He's eyeing the waitress or other female staff. He's always on his phone, but hides it from you when you come around. You, as the female, have every right to ignore these signs in the dating stage and write them off as harmless. But in marriage, you'll have every opportunity to notice these red flags. By then, it will be too late because you are noticing it on the wrong side of the fence when you could have evaluated whether this person was ready for you before exchanging the vows. For example, a male flirting with the waitress should throw up a parade of red flags. If you are sitting across the table and the person who is supposed to be dating you can't take his eyes off the waitress, this is a clear sign. You do not have to wait until he gets the waitress's number and starts to go out with her to smell the coffee. This is plain disrespect and should be enough to tell you to run. But what if it's more subtle? What if he has a close female best friend? You knew of her and you were willing to accept them at the early dating stage, but now there are behaviors he is exhibiting with her that you do not appreciate. In this case, there will come a time when he will have to choose between his best friend and you. Note that if you have to tell him to choose, run. That should be his decision. The best friend crown should change once he meets you. He and this person can still be friends, but you should become his priority. Remember, nothing should be forced on him. It is your job to observe, not to train. If you can see that his best friend is the most important person in the world to him, then you don't need to be in his life. He is covered. Take a break. Find somebody else. He has his best friend, and you deserve one too. Is it cheating if he's still on dating apps? If he forgot to delete his profile by mistake, this could be accepted with the caveat that he chooses on his own to delete the app when he finds out about his profile. However, if he is actively on this app, he is waving a big red flag in your face. If he is dating you, but he's actively on the app, he is saying that he is not looking for a serious relationship at this point, that he is not satisfied with what he has in front of him, and that he is still searching. You can be a part of that search and wait your turn, or you can decide to send him skipping. Don't you think this is all a little too much? You're being paranoid. If you have standards, you will call your partner to task and put them in check, thus avoiding many problems. Nothing is wrong with having standards. If others share concerns about the strictness of your dating philosophy and claim you are being paranoid, maybe it's true, but it's not a bad thing. If you are paranoid of heights, you will always be careful and practice safety. That will protect you from falling to your death by making a dangerous move. Likewise, being paranoid in the relationship will keep you from making foolish moves. Sadly, some people, especially those insisting you loosen up, might be telling you this because they accept cheating and other red flags and want you to do so as well. Be cautious and hold on to your standards because they are the foundation of your long-term relationship. Once a cheater, always a cheater? Cheating is a mindset. Minds can change and, thus, people can change. However, cheating is not accidental. The manual says that if a man looks at a woman to lust after her, he has committed adultery in his heart already. There are several hurdles one must jump in their own mind to successfully cheat. The male has to look at another woman and he has to want to be with her. He must get up and pursue her. He must tell her everything she wants to hear. You're my world. You're the most beautiful person I've ever laid eyes on. Some men will even recycle the lines they used to win over their current girlfriend and try them on a new mistress. After he has wooed the mistress, the male will, in certain cases, go as far as to get sexually involved with her. That's a lot of steps to think about and act on. That's a lot of calculations to make. See, cheating means that he has to split his loyalty in half, or maybe more than half, in the case of cheaters who have many women at once. He has to divide his fidelity, his faithfulness, and his commitment. A woman who simply excuses this behavior and dates a known cheater without giving him time to heal, to grow, and to overcome these weaknesses will reap the benefits of his damaged mentality. Therefore, it's not once a cheater, always a cheater. The question is, what has been done to repair that weakness, that inability to be satisfied, that inability to commit, and that inability to be loyal? Loyalty is a serious matter that digs much deeper than the temporary hurt caused by cheating. Someone who is unable to remain loyal and show self-restraint would not be able to honor the in sickness and in health part of the marriage vows. These vows are serious. If you get sick and cannot become physical, that person should be able to commit to living for years or maybe the rest of his life without any sexual intimacy. Now, if this person believes that he has to be intimate and you are sick, then you may feel sorry for him and for yourself. You may even give him the go-ahead to cheat. But that's not the agreement. He chose what he chose, and he chose it for life. If a man cheats in the dating stage, he is showing that he can't be trusted even when you are in good health. If you're ever ill, what kind of ruckus will he be raising out there? Why so hard on men? Women are built differently than men. A woman's number one need is not sex. It is affection. Because of this, a woman can go on living her life happily without a man. In fact, many times a widow remains single after her husband's death. She doesn't need a man, and in some cases, her experience with past relationships might have scarred her from ever wanting another. Another reason women are not the primary target of this principle is because of the curse. According to the manual, the woman's curse is to please the man, and he will rule over her. Genesis 3:16. Unless it's a really rancid male, the woman will take whatever he dishes out and not go anywhere. The male, on the other hand, is largely driven by passion, and this lust, unchecked, would cause him to want to sleep with anything in a skirt. There are a few women who fall under these conditions, but they're the exception, not the rule. However, for men, it is the rule. So when a woman finds a man who practices self-control, that's the exception, and that is what she should be looking for. Chapter 12. The Key of Testing. Practical testing methods. In today's world, there are many things that people can hide about themselves, such as their gender, their sexuality, or even their eye color. A perfectly normal person can get home and take off their makeup, their hair, their foot, and maybe even an eye. Physical and sexual deception has become almost seamless. Therefore, testing your partner is a necessary step in the investigation process. Remember, you are thinking about getting intimate, and spending your lifetime with this person. So making sure they are who they say they are and that they are within good health is reasonable. Example 8. Imagine the person you are dating has HIV and doesn't tell you until after a few months of dating. You now want to decide whether you want a life with them, knowing you could potentially contract the disease. There is the option to stay. Love covers all, and it is possible you love this person so much that you want to be with them regardless. There is the option to leave, as the health risks may be an issue for you and you would prefer not to make yourself vulnerable to catching this disease. The key in the above scenario is not the choice you make. It is the fact that you know about the disease and can make a choice. Being able to go to the hospital and do different tests prior to becoming blindly in love or marrying this person allows you to know what you are getting into, and then you can make a conscious decision about what you want. Another test that one can do is a DNA test. In recent history, people have lived together and even gotten married, only to discover at a funeral that they married a cousin or a sibling. Serious medical issues can occur in the offspring of siblings who procreate. On a more individual level, mating one's sibling is a very uncomfortable thought and an unacceptable practice in today's society. Testing via DNA kits or family trees can ensure that the person you are dating is not a closely related family member. If the proper precautions are not taken, you run the risk of discovering your familial relations at a funeral or after the wedding when it's too late. Another test that can be done is to check if the person is married. Many times, an adulterer won't advertise that they are married, especially if they are only interested in something physical. They will make it appear as if they are completely available until they get their prize. After that, they go about their business, often returning to their spouse. This test also applies if they come to you and tell you that they are married, but they are separated and getting ready for divorce. Let the person get his act together before starting anything with you. In this scenario, the only question you should ask is, why are you not with this woman whom you loved so much you married her? After, there should be no discussion, as you should just send him on his way. How do you test if someone is gay? This is one of the cases where running a test gives you a better chance, but it doesn't guarantee anything. Scenario 2. I know a situation where the person was gay, got married, and then left his wife and went back to his homosexual lifestyle. The wife had no idea he was gay, as he hid that from almost everyone around him. When he came out of the closet, it was a huge surprise, but as hindsight is better than foresight, many little things that people hadn't flagged before began making sense. This person covered that part of his life so well that it was nearly impossible to have predicted he would leave his wife for a man. You can't get all of them right, but this only emphasizes the importance of caution. If you see any red flags, look more deeply into that area. It's a tedious job, but for the female, it's a job well worth it, because it'll either be tedious before the marriage, or it'll be tedious to face these harsh realities after you've gotten married. I'm afraid he'll leave me if I test him. I'm afraid he'll leave me if I test him. Being afraid of confrontation and bringing up these heavy topics is a valid feeling. But fear won't help you after you've made a lifetime decision only to find out that you were deceived. In the case of sexual health, your life will be at risk. By then, you've already made that marriage vow, and you'll have to live with it. In the case of dating a married man, your relationship will be at risk. If you, as a female, open a discussion with your partner and suggest some tests, and he gets angry, it may be a sign that he has something to hide. His first response should be to make you happy. He should be eager to give you peace of mind and assure you that there is nothing you need to be concerned about. Of course, this goes vice versa too. If he gets upset, run. That immature response is a warning, another red flag tacked onto the negatives that means he is not ready for marriage. Note that the female can bring up this topic in a way that he can't refuse. Suggest going to the hospital for testing at the same time as a way to be together. Suggest looking through his family tree as a unique date. Rather than going on a date and heavy petting a man you didn't know was married, you can go to the registry and find out if he's truly available. These are simply keys that you can pick and choose, but the underlying principle is being observant. You, as a female, must test and evaluate. Be meticulous and rake everything with a fine-tooth comb because love and marriage are serious. At what point should you run these tests? If you are following this book to the letter, then the time to run these tests is right before or right after engagement. When you agree to an engagement, you're getting ready for marriage. By that time, you want to be made aware of these things before you start planning and putting resources together. At this point, you want to know exactly what you're getting into. The secret power of transparency. Transparency is not always easy. For example, if a person knows he or she has HIV, it might be difficult to be open about it during dating. However, deceiving the loved one would endanger that person's health. In that specific case, it is necessary to be honest and transparent. The infected person should let their partner know so they can make a choice to go or stay. Transparency is a principle that everyone should apply. It allows you to skip many hurdles by being honest and open. It is contagious as it encourages your partner to be open and honest in return. I have been completely transparent with the romantic relationships in my life, and that gives my spouse peace of mind. Nobody can come and tell her anything she hasn't heard already. Nobody can surprise her with a secret. This act of transparency, without any testing, without any questioning, immediately tells a lot about you. It says you're humble and teachable, and that you're an open book, that you can be trusted, and that you're honest. The transparency principle is especially for the male. He sets the standard by opening up and creating an atmosphere of trust. Ladies, if a man is transparent, it checks a lot of boxes. But this is not an excuse to discontinue stringent investigation. Transparency is only one key, but it is very important. Rather than start the relationship at the bottom, you've started at a high standard. Everybody wants someone they can trust, and transparency is a behavior that builds trust at a rapid rate. Chapter 13. The Key of External Influence. At what time should you meet the parents? The success of a relationship is not dependent on meeting the parents. It is not dependent on how fast you move during dating or what relationship milestones you hit in what order. The success of a relationship depends upon the quality of the foundation. and the foundation of the relationship should be the male. Therefore, no time is too soon to meet the parents, as this is not the main point of the dating stage. Here's the truth. If you have good parents and a rancid male, the relationship will not work. If you have bad parents or no parents and a solid male, a relationship can work. Note that when a male meets the female's parents or introduces her to his own, this is communicating that he's serious about her and that he's a respectful person. When a man meets his girlfriend's parents, he is showing maturity. He is showing that he understands how precious she is to that family, and he wants them to know that she is precious to him as well. The act of meeting the parents says something about the quality of the male right away. There are cases, however, where a man might choose not to meet the parents right away because he doesn't want to freak out the young lady. That is understood. But if introducing the parents freaks out the young man, then he needs to stop dating immediately. The parent meter. For the most part, a parent wants what is best for their child, and so they will guide and give advice from a place of love. Because of this, when you go after a mate, parents will want to chime in on your decision. Ideally, you should make your own choice at the end of the day, but a parent's opinion is worth considering. Sadly, some parents may judge a person by their skin, ethnicity, or financial status. And in this case, their judgment is compromised by prejudice. However, in most cases, if your parent has a problem with your mate, if there's some vibe, habit, or behavior they don't like, you should not overlook it. At the very least, give it some thought. The manual says, "Better is the wounds of a friend than the hugs of an enemy." Proverbs 27:6. If your parent who loves you wounds you by challenging your relationship with somebody, it is worth looking into. It doesn't mean you have to give up your relationship, but it does mean that you should move with caution. Some relationships face hurdles that are specifically designed to assist the growth of a couple, and disapproving parents can be one of those hurdles. Patience is required in such a scenario, but extending the time of dating also allows you to practice working out issues together, and, of course, allows you to continue your investigation. However, there are other times when parental disapproval is a warning. You can choose to get upset and ignore wisdom, but you must be prepared to pay for your choice if you push ahead. Having disapproving parents doesn't always mean that you should break up with that person. In some cases, it can mean that the person is just not ready as yet. The parents might have an issue with something that is repairable, fixable, and changeable. In this case, it could be a warning to slow down. They're not giving you a complete no, but perhaps the timing is off. The wisdom of arranged marriages. In some cultures, the parents meet before the two people in the relationship do. And this method still works. In fact, I believe that arranged marriages, on a whole, are more successful than non-arranged relationships. This is because in arranged marriage, love has the perfect fertile ground. It's a ground that is based on choice and not emotions. Marriages based on emotions are sometimes volatile. Emotions bloom and then die, dragging the relationship to the grave with it. However, when it's a relationship based on choice, not desire or lust, there is nothing to rely on but responsibility. Love is a choice. Therefore, both individuals make a choice that they will love each other. They will make it work even when they don't feel like it. And that is the fiber, the DNA of relationships. Arranged marriages, in most cases, is a reversal of how most Western-influenced countries do relationships, but it is a viable method. That is why meeting the parents should be done as soon as possible, as it allows the female and the family to study the male and see how ready he is for marriage. However, when it comes to the qualities that give the relationship longevity and security, meeting the parents is all the way at the bottom of the barrel. God told me to marry. If you run in religious circles, you might have heard the following phrases thrown around by or at singles who are looking for marriage. God says we should be together. You should wait for the person that God tells you to marry. You should wait for a prophecy about marriage. God will reveal that you should marry this person. This is all hogwash. I believe that God will not explicitly tell you to marry someone. Why? Because He is not to be blamed if it doesn't work out. When you choose to marry a person, you are bound to them until death. This contract is so binding that God cannot make that choice for you, just as He will not force you into choosing Him. You are fully in charge of making that decision, as you'll have to live with it. There is a section of the manual where God tells a prophet to marry a prostitute, Hosea 1:2. And many will throw this verse around as a counter-argument. But it is unwise to take a direct word from God spoken to His prophet and apply that to all situations. There is more to what makes a marriage work than just believing in God. In fact, sharing a common faith is not a guarantee that the marriage will survive. I've known of prophets and prophetesses who get married only to break up. I've seen pastors of huge churches marry each other and then divorce. Throwing faith into the marriage proposal has little bearing on the longevity of the relationship. Likewise, claiming marriage is a directive from the Lord is no guarantee either. I have seen many relationships with loving, zealous people who say God told them to get married, and now they're divorced. If it is true that they heard from God, that is not a problem. But they are, in effect, backing themselves into a corner. Such couples shouldn't have an ounce of complaint when the threads of their marriage fray, because all the man had was a vision and no readiness for marriage. In my opinion, the statement, God told me to marry you, is a big, hollow excuse. You should marry because the male is mature, responsible, and equipped to care for a wife and a family. If you jump into marriage because God told you to choose Him, then you better hope that this can keep your marriage together when the rubber hits the road. Again, I stress that I am not against the idea of God's involvement in the process. Choosing the right mate via the counsel of wisdom and the guidance provided by His manual ensures success and is recommended. However, these religious claims are very dangerous. It's like claiming you heard God tell you to jump off a building. You can go ahead and take the leap, but you can't be sorry when the laws of gravity kick in and drag you down. Even worse, when a person comes to you proposing marriage and claims they heard from God, it's like someone taking a leap off the building and trying to drag you down with them. Be extremely careful. God can tell someone anything, but make sure you hear that for yourself. Therefore, don't use God as an excuse, because the track record of the people who hear from God and then turn around and divorce makes it seem as if something is wrong, as if God doesn't know what He's doing. The manual says nobody should say God tempted them, as they're drawn by their own lust. James 1:13-14. When you choose a mate, you made that choice because of your own desire, your own craving, and what you want for yourself. And that's okay. The key is that you do not naively fall for this excuse or spend years and years waiting for God to give you a word. That word won't come. Instead, God gives you a romantic attraction based on smell, personality, and appearance. To those who still think that God will whisper the name of their future spouse in their ear, I say, you better make sure you heard from God. Otherwise, you better run some tests. The Key of Choosing. This entire book could be named The Key of Choosing because dating is choosing. Effectively, when you are dating someone, you've made a choice. From the moment you agree to date exclusively, it means certain conditions are already in place. You like the person's looks and/or attitude, and you see something in them that makes you give that person a chance. When you agree to date, you are no longer in the state of singleness that you were in before. You have moved to the point of admitting that you are interested in this person and would consider him as a long-term partner. Therefore, choosing should be a process that continues into the engagement stage. It should be a long process, can be years if you need it, to allow for proper investigation. It is reckless to make a choice in 1 minute for shallow reasons such as his car or his body. Again, choosing should be a lengthy and especially discreet process. Take your time. Nobody is rushing you, because when you rush to get in, you cannot rush to get out, even though at that point, you may have discovered you made a huge mistake. Chapter 14. The Key of Engagement. When are you ready? An engagement means different things for different people, but in general, it is the final rung on the ladder of a dating relationship. As an engaged couple, you are closer to a commitment than at any other time. If it were a race, engagement would be around 3/4 of the distance. You would be more committed than when you first began, but you still have the option to fully commit or to leave. Remember, even during engagement, you are still free to leave if you want to. The expectations on a male who is ready for marriage. The male needs to prepare himself to carry the marriage. For example, if a car needs to carry a heavy load for a long distance, you must make sure that the tires are pumped, the wheels are on properly, and all the parts are in the best shape. The male is like that car. He must have the strength to carry the weight of the marriage, the necessary skills to maintain the marriage, and the accurate understanding of what his responsibility is in the marriage. The expectations on the man in a marriage can be wrapped up in one statement. The male is responsible for what happens. It might not be his fault, but he is responsible. In other words, it is the male's responsibility to make repairs to the relationship, protect the things that need protecting, nurture what needs nurturing, provide for the family financially, and thus he must have a job, bring the family together, keep the family together, give direction within the family. To accomplish this, he must have a purpose and a vision of where he wants to go. He needs to understand the language that women speak, womanese, and be able to interpret it well. He has to be prepared to agape love, which means even if he's unable to be fulfilled sexually, he still loves his wife. He should be able to practice faithfulness and not be flirty and disrespectful to his wife. He should be willing to lay down his life for his wife because he can have no greater love for her than being willing to do this. John 15:13. Keeping this grave sacrifice in mind, giving up a habit or staying faithful should be easy in comparison. A couple is ready for engagement when the male is no less than 90% equipped with these qualities, abilities, mentalities, and mindsets. The expectations on a female who is ready for marriage. For a female, you are now going to choose the car that is going to carry the weight. You need to become an expert investigator, checking the tires and making sure that what looks good on the outside isn't dry rotten on the inside. You might need to do a little pre-test by putting some weight on the car and watching its response. If you notice it sinks all the way to the ground, be wary. How can it carry the proper weight if it can't handle a light load? Again, it is of extreme importance that you be very cautious. Before you make that commitment, put the vehicle through its paces. And I'm not talking sexually. During this process, you are looking for the way the car, the male, responds and making note of everything. Remember to observe stealthily. If someone knows you're observing them, they might be on their best behavior. Making your observation known might produce false readings. Another job for you as the female is to equip yourself with the knowledge of what is required from a male in a marriage. From there, equip yourself with the tools that will allow you to assess the conditions of this male. Only when you're satisfied that the male is capable and ready is where you can say "I do" and give yourself over to his hands. Scenario 3. When you're considering a dangerous surgical operation, you don't wait until you're under the knife to find out if the doctor is certified, trained, and experienced in your area of need. If you wait until you're cut open to do your homework, you'll be terrified if you find out that you've given yourself over to this person and he has no idea what he's doing. This is what happens in many marriages. Women walk headfirst into the curse that says you are going to become one, that he will rule over you, and that your desire will be for him. Genesis 3:16. Only to find out that he is careless, irresponsible, and untrained, leaving you in the open, unsterilized, and bleeding out. This is why you must be wary of getting heavily physical in the relationship, as that blinds you and messes up your measuring instruments so you cannot properly assess who you're getting into bed with. The most important job of the female is to make sure that you possess the skills to investigate and observe the male, and do so before saying "I do." Dangerous reasons for getting married. In some religious circles, people are pushed into marriage because they had premarital sex or because the woman gets pregnant outside of wedlock. These are some of the worst reasons to marry because it leaves no room for testing and observation. If you, as the female, marry just because you slept with someone, you may not have learned how to do the testing required to ensure he is ready to carry the weight of that responsibility. Having sex at that time meant that you liked each other and you wanted to be physical with each other. However, having sexual chemistry does not mean you are ready for a lifetime with this person. Likewise, getting married because of pregnancy is a dangerous excuse because you may be joining with a man who is not even 20% ready for such a commitment. Lastly, beware of marrying someone simply because your parents love the young man and want you to be with him. They will not have to live with this man. They will not have to put up with his untrained mentality and inability to carry the marriage. You will. In a previous segment, we went as far as to say that God does not tell you who to marry. If you come down the chain of command, your parents shouldn't tell you who to marry either, though this may vary with some cultures. It's your choice, and that choice should be based on proper investigation. If not, that's your prerogative. It's your life and your body. You can do whatever you choose because you have the right to. But each decision comes with consequences. You want to make sure that the choice you make has good, long-lasting consequences. Engagement Readiness Scale. When you reach the point of engagement, the male should be way past 60% ready for marriage. 60% is when the person is ready for dating. If you, as a female, interact with a man before the 60% readiness mark, it's not dating. It's just fooling around. When a couple who is fooling around gets engaged, the likelihood of failure is higher because the male is not ready. However, the female should also be more than 60% ready at the dating stage. This means that she owns more than 60% of her testing tools and has been prepped to be an accurate investigator. By the time you reach engagement, you should both be over 90% ready because at any time you can get married. The ideal goal is 100%, but nobody's perfect. So barring that, 90 is a good place to be at engagement because you can add to it and work on the little final details before marriage. Personal example. I was not 90% ready for marriage when I tied the knot, and my wife wanted to send me back home to my mother. She said things like, "You are not ready for this. I didn't expect this. This isn't what I planned to get into." I grew inside of the marriage, and we made it work because I had the key ingredients of love and commitment. But it was not ideal. Older couples often tell the younger ones, if you get past the first year, you are good. Why? Because the first 3 years of marriage is when the man learns what he should have come equipped with. He is now trying to undo bad habits that the female should have detected during dating. In today's society, we have a lot of men that are really boys getting married. And we have a lot of ladies expecting these boys to be men. Unmet expectations cause some of the biggest issues in relationships. The female enters the relationship not expecting to marry her little brother or a child, but expecting to marry someone who showed themselves during dating to be accomplished, purpose-driven, and reliable. Note that even if someone passes the engagement readiness test, success is not a full guarantee. But following these guides will protect you from making mistakes that could be avoided and increase the possibility of a long, enjoyable, meaningful marriage. In conclusion, to make the best possible choice and avoid long-term issues, the couple must have an accurate understanding of what their individual responsibilities are. Most importantly, the female must ensure that the male is capable of carrying the weight of a lifetime commitment. Because once you say I do, the authority is now passed over to the male. This has been The Dating Key, written by Sylburn Arthurs, narrated by Nia Arthurs. Copyright 2020, Sylburn Arthurs. Production copyright 2021 by Arthurs Publishing.